Hey guys, welcome to the Property Panel Podcast. You got myself, Jalen Hardcastle here, and Josh Story, the new and improved married
I'm
man.
back. I'm back.
But thank you guys for tuning in today. But before we get started, Josh, you want to kick us off into our sponsors?
Yeah, I want to thank our title sponsor for today's episode. Big shout out to Collier Title Company. If you need deed prep, title work, closings, and more, they're located in Brandenburg, E-Town, and Louisville. You can call them at 270-763-6589. And then for this week's sponsor, I want to thank We Buy Houses. You can give us a call at 270-945-5416, 270-945-7189.
And we can give cash offers and close as little as 2 weeks. Just give us a call and we'll check out your house and shoot you a cash offer.
Yep, and if you or anyone you know would like to be a weekly, monthly, or yearly sponsor, that is $100 weekly, $300 monthly, and $3,000 yearly, and you're advertised on our intros, outros, as well as intermissions and all social media platforms. Excuse me. And I think we're on about 5 or 6 different platforms now, and we're reaching about 2,000 to 3,000 views cumulatively. We've been a little slower in the past weeks as far as our production, just because we've been dealing with Josh's wedding, Ethan's move, and 2 toddlers at home. Yep. So we've been busy, but we're still bringing you the information, the latest and greatest in real estate, week in and week out. So before we dive into today's topic, Josh, would you kind of tell us how your wedding went, how you feel, a week as a married man?
It went really, really good. It was all at my family's farm, and so we all worked together to set that up, and it went better than I could have ever expected or hoped. It was a great time. I mean, we all had a good time. And then I guess just a week as a married man, it doesn't feel much different, but, it feels good at the same time, and happy and excited to spend the rest of my life with her. So, good times with friends, good times with family.
Yep. It was a great time. Yeah. I know I had my fair share of good time while I was down there both days, but no, it was awesome blending with the 2 families, seeing them to come together. And then obviously watching 2 of my great friends come together. I was pretty happy to see that and proud to be a part of it. It was romantic, especially just being down there on that family farm where there's so much history. Mm-hmm. And it's just a beautiful setting. I mean, obviously y'all have pictures coming through over the next few weeks, and I'm excited to see those and everyone else see those as well. And he appreciates everyone that's donated to the registry. If you did, if
thank
not,
you guys.
At least go check out the website, because he is the website master.
It's still up there. So, if you guys need a website, just kind of give me a call. I can hook you up.
He can. He does a good job. And then I guess, again, before we dive into today's topic, next week we are going to be going over Ethan's transformation. He's fully moved in after this weekend, and he put the final finishing touches on it as we speak. So next week we will be going over that live with him Friday, and so that would be pretty cool. Josh, tell us about a little horror story. I know you've been dealing with some craziness. As we do all these deals, we have different stories, some good, some bad, and some ugly. So I think this is one of the more uglier ones.
So I got this client, gave me a call, wanted to list some land down in Irvington. So I was all about it, went and checked it out. So then we went to the part where we were signing documents, and every time I met with this guy, I drove across the bridge to Indiana to meet him. So it was kind of weird. A little bit
on
of red
the interstate.
Yeah, on the interstate, a little bit of red flags, but I carried through with it. Get it listed, and there was promises of getting it cleaned up. That never happened. So on and so forth. But then we get a call through the office that someone else was claiming ownership to this property, and at this point, I was kind of done with the listing anyway, just because of all the oddities and how it felt. So anyway, this guy claims to the land, and I basically text my client, hey, I don't feel comfortable listing this anymore. Whatever's between you all, it's none of my business, but, I'm stepping away from this one. And, it was just a rapid fire of texts like, oh, don't trust that man. That's why I told you to carry a gun. That man killed 13 people. I was just like, what? Like, this is not worth it to me. But, yeah, it was just a mess. 2 people claiming different stories. The other guy was evil, and he stole my property, and it was something else. But
yeah, he had me read those texts, and I was amazed at what came out of that man's mouth, which Josh handled it very professionally. He didn't even respond, and I know that sometimes I felt like I might not have been able to help myself in that situation because it was pretty entertaining. That sounded like a movie. You could sell that to Warner Brothers or something for $250,000 at least.
And it was the week of my wedding, and I was like, I just don't I don't need this right
No,
now. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah. You're
it's
dealing
got
with a
this-
lot more. And then honestly, it was a lower end listing. Not that we treat them any differently than the higher end listings, but
Right.
at the same time, you know, when we're jumping through hoops for someone that's not going to do the same for us, like Josh said, he wouldn't even meet him at the property. So
Oh,
who
yeah.
knows if he's at the exact right property since it's a land listing. They don't have physical addresses all the time. And it was also, I think, in Brett County, which they don't
Mhm.
even carry any records in
Yep.
the deed book and page because it got burnt down in the 80s or 90s. So it was a difficult situation. You tried. You actually got the property under contract, I think, 2 or 3 times in that time. But one thing after another just kept on popping up. So, you know, 3
Yeah.
strikes and you're out in my category.
I was ready for it to end, and that was my ticket out. So.
No, I don't blame you. But no, that's a crazy story, and we do deal with stuff like that, but we do have great stories too, you know. But I guess today we're going to be talking to you about investment information. We just want to kind of go over flips, rentals, you know, Airbnbs, VRBOs, vacation rentals. You know, it's just many types of different investments you can get in real estate, and these aren't the only investments you can make, but these are some of the most common that we get asked about. So we kind of wanted to dive in deeper with you guys and give you a little more information on that. Josh, you want to start us off and tell us what main investments there are?
Yeah, well, like you said, you know, there's flips, rentals, and Airbnbs. But as far as flips go, you know, from start to finish, obviously you want to find a house at a good price. But, you know, when you go and look at this house to see if it's good for a potential flip, what you want to do is really write down everything that needs to be repaired, come up with a good comprehensive list. That way you know how much it's going to cost to get it to fixed up price. And then before you purchase, you want to go ahead and run the comps and see, okay, if this was fully fixed up, how much could we sell it for? And then you can work backwards from there and kind of figure out what your offer price would be. And, you know, all the in between as far as repairs, you know, that's probably the biggest learning process. The other parts is just kind of running numbers, but, you know, whether you're hiring out the teams or doing the work yourself, you know, we're going from floors to paint, you know, so on and so forth, which we'll get into. But, you know, there's a lot of in between buying and selling. But, you know, all in all, it is kind of a simple process. I feel like once you get it down, but there's a lot to it. And, you know, you want to make sure that you find a house at a good price and you know what it's going to cost to fix.
Right. Yep. And then obviously you got your rentals. So like Josh talks about, you make a lot of your money on the purchase price. So, you know, whenever we're going to do a rental, we're going to want to rent that property out for at least 1% of that purchase price to make sure that we're going to be profitable. And then a lot of times we're going to have them set up on those 5-year notes. So we're going to obviously want to pay those off quickly. And then that's beneficial to us and, you know, our pocketbook, obviously, because whenever you first get a rental, you're only making, you know, what seems like pennies on the dollar, but at least it's constant income. And especially for us, at least it seems more that way because, you know, as realtors, we're not promised a check every week or every 2 weeks like these people on W-2s. So it is nice to have those rentals, you know, and even over flip sometimes because that flip, you know, like you said, it is start to finish. It's a lot more of a rehab process. Those rentals just need to be livable in the most cases, you know, and up to code. But yeah, there's a lot of more money out of pocket in those cases as well as far as flips go versus rentals, I think. So,
Right.
you know, and then obviously what's the last one that we got here?
Airbnb and vacation rentals, which Jalen, you could probably speak to this one a little bit better, but you know, you got more of like what do they call it? Like day-to-day contracts when people rent it out.
Yeah, they like to call them like short-term rentals, and then
Short-term
that's
rentals.
kind of why they call them vacation rentals because people do offer short-term rentals in the regular rental industry, which we'll get into later. I don't think is as profitable as, you know, your 6-month to a year long-term leases. But as far as your VRBOs, they're great to have in locations that you might want to enjoy yourself. So obviously we have some down in Rough River. Hopefully we get some down in Florida here soon going. But obviously the ideal is to rent that property out for more than you would get for market rent month per month. You're obviously going to, you know, for a shorter term, drive that price up a little more. And then obviously you can not block off days for yourself to go enjoy that. But obviously if you want it to be the most profitable, you're not going to be blocking off a crap ton of days. You want that property to continue renting out. But it is nice that it rents for a little bit above market value just because you're offering, you know, a location, basically. Location always drives the price
Yeah, that's
up.
what I was going to say. Pretty much all of these investments, location is important, but I feel like Airbnb and vacation rentals, you know, location.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you can drive up that interest and where people are traveling really and wanting to stay, that's where you want to put one. So on lakes, waterfront, just, a place where people can hang out for the weekend kind of thing, or, near like a Gatlinburg style town. But yeah, Airbnbs are also a good option. But, no matter what you do on all these, you can make profit. It just, like you said, it all depends on, you make your money on the purchase, not the sell.
Yeah, a lot of people get it twisted, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to sell it for this amount, and that's where I'm going to make my money." Well, really, ideally, inflation is always going to keep on the incline, but at the same time, it might stagnate out on a staircase for a little bit, and in them cases, you're going to have where you want to buy low and sell high, obviously, but yeah, you make your money on the buy, despite what most people might think. But before we decide which one you might want to choose, and later in the episode, I think we're going to dive down what I think the best method is as far as how you should get going as far as
Right.
running the race, to get them all. But yeah, I think we should dive into flips a little bit. Can you just do a little bit, or does it got to be the whole thing? What do you think?
It really ultimately is case by case, but I would say 8-9 times out of 10, you're gonna have to do the whole thing. Because if you're getting one for a good deal, most times it does need a lot of work. Now there are some that you get that don't need a lot of work, but you're going to have to do the whole thing. You don't want to leave any stone unturned because you want to qualify ultimately for FHA, VA type loans. So if you're having things like, holes in the floor or bad outlets, something that might hold it from going FHA or VA, you're really limiting your market pool and you're going to limit your interest. So, I would say, most times it's the whole thing you're really going to have to worry about on the flips.
Yeah, I think that's the most profitable, essentially, like you said, and they also have like that 90-day flip rule. So if you buy a home within the first 90 days of you owning that, you can't resell it to a FHA or VA buyer. It has to be cash or conventional. So that's why you want to go ahead and most of the cases go ahead and finish it all the way off, because obviously you have that extra time to do so. But obviously you're going to make more money too. Like, I know some investors nowadays, which I don't necessarily recommend, but we've done it a couple times, is, buy these properties super low. We'll basically just clean them out and sell them to another investor, make the profit that we're happy with, and that other investor still has some meat on the bone to make their profit as well. But yeah, typically what we do is, buy them low and then, remodel the whole thing and sell them high. Obviously we like that big chunk of change, but at the same time, just like with the rentals, it's nice to have that, quick cash as well. So we might take a little hit as far as our profit, what they could be, but we're not, also paying interest, paying, payments and electric bills, as well as holding it on the market for a potential buyer.
Right. And flips to me, they're not always a good option. It's definitely that thing, a higher risk, high reward. You're putting up a lot more money out of pocket. So in that instance, it's a lot more risk. You're going to put a lot more money into a flip than you would, say, a rental, hopefully,
Right.
or an Airbnb. So, a lot more risk right there, but a lot more reward potentially. It's good for gaining capital to later purchase rentals or Airbnbs. But yeah, I mean, it's a good option, but it's not always a good option. Depends on your financial situation.
Right. Yep. And I always tell people, yeah, it's a lot of money at once that we get, but it's a lot of money out of pocket too. I don't think a lot of people realize, obviously you can get partners and cut down a little bit of that headache on the cost, but obviously your profits are going to be cut as well, so you always got to look at it, get you some good investors, some good partners, and as well as good realtors to find you those deals. And it makes the process a little more seamless. But I guess we could dive into the rentals a little bit now.
Yeah. On rentals, you're typically looking for a 6-month to 1-year lease when you have one. Over like a month-to-month lease, because I guess you could run into a lot of issues there. Maybe they're not paying, or it's going to be harder to, I guess, get them out if they're on a month-to-month.
Essentially, yeah. So I think a lot of people think the opposite, like, oh, we're going to do month-to-month. They basically don't have as much rights. No, as soon as you let someone in that property, they have more rights than you. And it sucks to say, but they do. I'm no lawyer, so go ahead and ask your own. But yeah, that I'm gonna tell you from personal experience, that's what's happening. And basically, I think that people that are going to live in there for 6 months to a year are going to care more about that property and the upkeep rather than someone that's just going to be in there for a month. Kind of like with those vacation rentals, you might see a little more costs and repairs and stuff like that because you are getting those people there for those shorter terms, so they're not going to care about the properties as if it's their own. And then obviously you're going to have higher costs in that aspect as well.
Yeah, and you want to shoot for at least 1% of purchase price on your rent. So for 100,000, you're wanting to be around 1,000 for rent. Now that can vary depending on what your payoff is going to be or what you want, but ultimately you want that 5-year payoff. Some people do 10. It really depends on where you're at, but yeah, you're aiming for 1% of purchase price for your rent.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that you got to fix it all the way up. So that's the difference between flips and rentals. Obviously, the more that you want to get towards that market value, you're going to put higher end finishes. But you just really want a nice, clean home. As far as flips go, we're putting in granite countertops, nice paint, new roofs, gutters, the whole nine. But if something's not broke, don't fix it. As far as rentals go, it could have an older furnace, an older water heater. You do have to expect that those costs could come, and you do have to repair those things if they do go out, if you do have a tenant. But at the same time, you just have to bring it up to code. Put some cheap peel and stick flooring in there or whatnot. Not saying that that's what we do on all of them, but I'm just giving people an idea for their first rental. And whenever you're scraping pennies together at 18, 19 years old, you don't think it's possible to buy a house, which we'll get into later. Our plan for getting you in these situations. But yeah, as far as just a rental goes, that's what I think to do.
Yeah, and if you think about it, you're the one. If you own the rental, you're the one paying the mortgage on it. And I mean, your tenants ultimately do end up paying the mortgage on it. But if you're putting in all these high end finishes and spending the extra money on hardwood floors, and then that tenant lives there for 6 months and destroys it, I mean, you just wasted a lot of money versus going with stick tile over like a hardwood.
Right.
So you got to keep that in mind, because you don't want to keep putting in tens of thousands of dollars into this rental every time a tenant moves out.
Right.
Whereas, you could replace that stick and tile for a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's where people get that landlord special a little bit, like you said, and that's a great way to look at it, Josh. And I don't think a lot of tenants do, is because, they're living there, they're thinking it's my house. Well, really, it's someone else's house, essentially. You got the rights to it at the moment, but not everyone's going to treat that home to the same standards as we would. And I promise, if you go in our personal home, it is going to be a nicer finish, because we're going to take care of it better, And those people that do take care of their rentals, you better believe that we're going to take care of them. And we're going to, if they want to ask us for a new ceiling fan or, new whatever, new floor in a room, if it's starting to peel up, whatnot, we might put in those higher end finishes to make it last a little longer for those people that are going to be in there for the long term.
Right. Yeah. You just don't know who's going to move in. Like, it's not, a dig to any specific tenant, but the next one, might be worse than the one before. So, it's a real big risk to put in high quality finishes just to have them destroyed at the end of the day.
Yep.
So, I think that's the reason those go that way. But, like you said, you don't have to fix it up all the way to get to close to market rent, because, you're not looking for the modern amenities per se, or like the modern finishes per se, because you want to save that money for your flips.
And just for like the flips and selling houses, the rental market's the same way. It's supply and demand, and we have an undersupply for the over demand that we have right now, and it's tremendous. So like literally, we don't even have times before people are begging us to get us into these homes, and then those same people sometimes will be on Facebook trying to bash us, and it's like, we did you a solid, and then you're going to turn around and make it look like we're the bad guys. Right. So, there's 2 sides, 3 sides to every story, So, essentially, we're doing what we have to do. We're happy to, provide and help our customers the best we can. But, sometimes you can't please everyone, and we do always give them the option if they aren't happy, and in most cases that they can leave. They don't have to stay around.
And if you're mad about rent rates or landlords, then by all means, go ahead and purchase your own house, and you take the risk. You put yourself out there, you get another mortgage and have to pay that bill at the end of the day, and and see how you feel about what you're going to charge, because that's just what the market's doing. Like you said, there's very low supply, but there's very high demand, and so these rentals go quick, and so we're only charging what we need to pay the mortgage at 7.5% or whatever interest rates are at the time.
Right.
But yeah, take that risk if you're upset about rent rates. Pay your own mortgage and go that route, and we could definitely help you find a house. If you want to do it that way.
Yeah, I say we jump into the Airbnbs, the VRBOs, vacation rentals by owners. I think they're pretty important to have, and actually at the assessment meeting I had this morning with the PVA board, something was brought to my attention. I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to mention it, but I'm going to. They're actually trying to, and this is big. We should put red letters around the screen right now because this is kind of scary for people like myself and other investors that do have these types of properties. We're not sure how it's going to affect it right now. It's still in the learning process, but they're trying to convert these properties that we're doing these Airbnbs, VRBOs on to commercial type properties rather than residential. And their argument is that they think that those homes are bringing in more value because of their potential, but really that's just the location. Whether I'm going to buy a home to live in it or if I'm going to rent it out, that's what I try to explain to them, that people even do short-term rentals like month to month, and you're going to, just because it's in that location, people are going to do it. Doesn't mean that the property value is worth more just because, like, yes, an investor might see more potential in that, but that doesn't mean the value of the property is worth more. And they think that they're selling for more because they are Airbnbs and VRBOs, and maybe in some cases, but that just gives them that credentials. Just like if we're buying a rental, an investment property for 6 month to year long terms for these tenants, we still have that same mindset that we're buying this property to make money, and that makes it more valuable. If it has a rent log of 10 years with the same tenant, or multiple tenants paying top notch, that goes to show that this property is worth that value. So I don't think necessarily that it should be changed to be classified as a commercial property when these are residential. So we will be staying tuned and updating you on that because it pisses me off, and I hope it does others.
Is that a local rule, or is that?
It's across Kentucky at the moment, which is going to be brought into our PVA office. So that will be your property valuation assessment. And I just got appointed to the Board of Appeals, so this is the stuff that I'm having to learn. And I brought home some paperwork with me, some homework, because I wanted to learn more on it, not only for myself but for my clients, to better serve you guys. Because there was a few things that came up today, and as a realtor, I might not ever think about if I hadn't, which I should be thinking about. Maybe other investors and people older and more mature than me that have been more experienced might understand it and think about these kind of things. But I'm glad it was brought to my attention, and that's why I like that God puts people in their places at the right times. I was just offered that position, and I was like, heck, it couldn't hurt. Not necessarily that it was something that I was leaping for joy to do, but I thought it'd be good to get my name out there and to also give myself some more information as far as other perspectives of real estate. So this was just our first meeting today, and it was pretty cool to see what they had to say.
That's awesome. I feel like you're going to learn a lot in those meetings, and just being more involved in the PVA.
Yeah,
side
sorry
of
to
things.
get on my ransack there, but when we started talking about these Airbnbs and VRBOs, that was actually brought up at the meeting, and I didn't agree with what the common consensus was. And I feel like the common consensus is of the people that do not own these investment properties. So they're just more concerned about their tax value going up. But that's another thing that I want to get into later on down the road. Now that I'm a part of this, and we're taking on new perspectives.
How would that affect you directly if it got switched to commercial?
Basically, it would be on a different tax district, and as far as commercial buildings go, it could depend, and I don't want to tell you wrong right now because It was my first day. That's something we will get into and go over, though.
Okay.
But yeah, that's good questions, and that's something that we should talk about because I learned a lot of good information that will make you guys happy too. I mean, there's some things that I heard in there. A lot of people don't understand why their tax assessed value of their properties are going up, and it's just a thing that is what it is. Obviously, property values are going up, and if you do want to dispute it, there is that option for sure. And we can assess the appeal and bring it to your attention and show you our comps as well as you can show us yours, so we can have a good discussion about it and come to a good consensus of what fair face market value is of your property.
Right. I guess back into Airbnbs. It's a great way to make money and have an option to use it yourself. Location is important, but you can be making money at the same time. Have a weekend to go out in the summer to go visit. So it kind of doubles as a vacation home and a money maker. So in my opinion, it's probably one of the best investments as far as the enjoyment you can get out of it. Let's see.
And then, like you said, location is always important. But you want to buy those because they're going to be constantly renting out. Like I said, those rent logs. But obviously, you want to have like a theme. People are drawn in by not only the location, but obviously some have little themes. I've stayed in many Airbnbs over the years, and they'll call them we had a Mountain Dew house. The fridge was just stocked with Mountain Dew. It was Mountain Dew colors. It's pretty cool. We've had, I don't even know, but that Mountain Dew one was pretty cool because everything was Mountain Dew. And I was like, I'll stay here again. I don't
Yeah.
even like Mountain Dew.
Yeah, the themed ones are really cool. I think that's a good way to make your Airbnb stand out, is put a theme to it.
Yep.
But which one would you choose if you had to choose one out of
Well,
all these investments?
So this kind of goes into what we was talking about earlier. We're gonna kind of tell you how we did it as far as steps go. I would honestly buy, live, and flip. And I know we didn't talk about that much on the flips, but that is an option. Not something I would do often because you're gonna obviously stay in it more, and you're gonna have those capital gains often. You want secure residential residence, but I would go ahead, buy, live, and flip. And depending on what interest rates are that time, whenever you're ready to sell in 2 years and buy you another one, either flip that property or turn it into a rental. And then, if you flip it, you got a big lump sum of cash to buy you another investment property and a rental, because you should be able to buy two with that profit. Or, if you turn that one into a rental, buy you two flips or another rental and a flip still. There's so many ways to that outcome. But
Which I agree with you. I'd say live in flip would probably be the best option because you kind of get around those capital gains tax after 2 years.
Yep.
But another great option I was thinking of is a live in rental. So if you can get a hold of a fourplex or a twoplex, you can live in one of the units and then basically your tenants. One, you're there all the time, which may or may not be a bad thing. You might have them
Right.
knocking on your door, but you can at least manage it pretty well. But you'll get your mortgage paid off by your tenants
Right.
while you're living there. So
And that is something that we need to look into too. They're actually trying to make it harder for us to use our own loans for our personal preference. I've actually ran into it with the VA that has had issues for years over this, where they're going to have an income producing property. Something about, the VA
Can't
just
live in it.
doesn't like that they are trying to, produce income. You have to live in it, actually. You have to live in it for it to produce money. You can't
Gotcha.
just buy it with a VA loan. Obviously, you can turn it into a rental after you lived in it for so long, but that is a requirement, and I think FHA is getting a little more strenuous on it, because you used to be able to buy, a little higher than a fourplex, and I think they're even trying to crack down on that fourplex right now. So this is stuff that you guys need to be aware of, because this is what we need to fight for. We should not be, and it's not necessarily our rights. I mean, I understand there's laws and regulations that change and stuff, but at the same time, if it's our money and we're going to pay it, let us do what we want with it.
And you got to think who this hurts. So it's not hurting the big corporations, the people with millions and billions. This is hurting, people like me or Jalen, like where you're just getting started. You're wanting to do something good for yourself, produce some income to help your family. Like, this is hurting the smaller guys that are wanting to get started in investing, that are wanting to get going in making some passive income. It's not hurting the corporations or the the wealthy. So these kind of regulations holding people back from making profit on their property. That really affects the people just trying to get started.
Right. But no, I agree with you. If you can find one too that's affordable, I know anymore, it's tough, but that is a great idea too. Just so many options out there. But like we say, and it might sound like a broken record, hit us up. We'll give you the best, opinion on what we think, what route you should take at the current moment with your current situation. So don't hesitate to reach out. Even if you got questions, if you ain't trying to buy or sell right now or within the next year, maybe you will be in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and we'd like to help you out then. And we'd like to get you started on the process now. And we also have people like Chad Gooden, shout out to him, one of our title sponsors that legally can't be at the moment, but he does offer a credit recovery repair program. So that's something nice that he offers. And a lot of times he can get you on track on 6 months to a year that quickly. A lot of people are like, oh, it'll be a few years before I'm approved. That's like impossible. And no, he has you on a program that will help you succeed.
He's helped several of my clients on the credit repair programs, and it works great. Really putting people in homes when they want to be, and he's a great lender, and hopefully we can get him back on the show here soon.
Oh yeah, we definitely will. He's going. I actually had a phone call with him this morning. He's going on vacation next week, so maybe by the end of the month, maybe around 4th of July. He goes camping a whole lot during the summer. Kids are out of school. He's a camping man, and I need to go camping with him.
Oh yeah, I haven't been camping in a while.
No, I need to go. I stayed in a camper this weekend for all but like 2 hours because we went to bed at 7 in the morning on your wedding. You freaking crazy monster. That was a good time. That was a good time.
Late night, early morning.
But yeah, basically the goal is to buy, sell, rent, repeat. You keep that up, and real estate's the best investment you can possibly make on this earth. So go ahead and get started as quick as you can. And there are tricks to the trade. A lot of people are bashing a lot of other people on why they can't get their own stuff done. Like, you work hard and you'll see, results, is what I always tell people.
Yeah.
You strive for greatness, put goals into the atmosphere, and continue thinking positively, and just keep on reaping what you sow.
Yeah, work hard, work smart, build that credit. Get yourself prepared for the future, and like you said, buy, sell, rent, repeat. There's so many options to get started in investing. Set a goal for one of them, and really drive yourself to that goal.
Yep.
And then you can get your foot in the door on investing. But I think that really wraps up our episode. Unless you have anything else to. Yeah, fold it up.
It's wrapped up.
But I guess we'll go ahead and thank our sponsors for the
Let's thank
episode.
them.
Thank you.
guys for tuning in.
I'm thankful.
Please like, subscribe, share, whatever you can do. We're on TikTok. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. So check us out. Give us a like. Give us a follow. But thank you to our title sponsor, Collier Title Company. If you need deed prep, title work, closings, and more, they're located in Brandenburg, E-Town, and Louisville. You can call them at 270-763-6589. And then for this week's sponsor, I want to thank We Buy Houses. If you want to sell your home, or if you just want a cash offer to see what you can get out of it, we can go that route, or we can list it. But give us a call at 270-945-5416 or 270